This 3D print is Aaron's Titan, also known as the Founding Titan from Attack on Titan, and I'm going to show you how I painted it. First off, I want to give a huge shout out to Caden 3D. This is the model that he designed. This is actually the second Attack on Titan model that he designed. The first one we did in our previous video. I showed you how to paint that one, so if you haven't checked that out, be sure to go do that. But this is going to go alongside that diorama. Just beautifully made. Huge shout out to him. To start off, I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup, and then I'm going to paint everything black. I like the black undertones when it comes to my 3D models. I don't know why, I just think that it looks better. But first, let's make a little bit of some dark tones to the flesh. So I mixed a little bit of dark umber and a little bit of that tan flesh to make a darker tone. A lot of mistakes happen, especially when it comes to new beginners when it comes to painting. They want to add black to darken their stuff. That usually dulls out the color, so try to pick something that's similar but darker. So like I said, I did brown with the tan flesh, which darkened that tan flesh but didn't dull out that tan flesh. Then I took some dark red and I painted his tongue, and then I came back with some light red and I kind of went over the top of it a little bit, made it a little bit brighter in certain areas. Nothing too crazy. Now, I added a little bit of red to his cheeks, chin, jawline, nose, just some like sharp points. I end up painting back over that. That's going to kind of look at like some blood vessels underneath his skin tones. And then I took that ivory and I just very lightly went over his teeth. What this did is actually leave some of those black lines in place so that you can see some separation in between his teeth. Now, this is a chip light that I got from Evans Design, Evans Light, Evans LEDs. I'll leave the link in the description. But it's just a chip light that you can run. You'll have to solder them. I guess technically you don't, but I highly suggest soldering them just because you have a better connection. I chose green because his eyes are green in the show. All I did was I ran those through his eyes and then I solidified them in place with clear resin. And then as far as his muscles go, I did that the same way that we did in the previous video with the Colossal Titan. I just took that dark red, put a lot of paint on the brush and went over the entire thing. Let that dry completely. Please let it dry completely because you will rip up that paint layer if you don't let it dry completely. Let it dry completely, then take the light red, use a makeup brush, and you do not need a lot of paint on the brush when you do this. It's called dry brushing for a reason. Think of it as like a dusting over the top areas. You want just a little bit on there. You can always add more, it's no big deal. But if you need to add less, it's going to be very difficult to do. You'll have to paint it back over with that dark red. Just go over the high tops with that with the makeup brush. For his skeleton, I took that bright warm gray that you see there and I painted the entire skeleton in that way. And then I ended up going back with some ivory and kind of dry brushing over the top of that. And that's going to lay inside of his muscles. The next up is going to be his neck. I did the same technique for his neck that I did with his face. I just took kind of like that dark umber and that tan flesh, painted the entire thing. Then I came back and added some blue and red washes. That's why you see it look a little bit different. I actually ended up not liking that too much. It didn't work out too well for me. So I ended up painting over the entire thing in that tan flesh. But I just needed it to really just match the same color as his face. That was the most important thing. You don't want two tones of flesh on one individual. That just doesn't make any sense. So then I ran the wires down this hole that I created. That hole I actually created I hollow out the model, and then in my slicer software I create a hole to puncture in. I know somebody had asked me a question about that. I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that. That is actually done in my slicer software, so it prints that way. It doesn't actually I don't drill a hole or anything. I suppose you could. It's just easier to have it print that way. The smoke that comes off of him, those are done the same way as in the previous video. Just like a little bit of that ivory, dark gray and then ivory over it. Or it's more of a light gray, I suppose. The dark gray comes in the bottom section, all of that smoke. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that on his tongue, I actually added some, a little bit of like lacquer to kind of make it clear, look like it's wet. Everything else is in a matte tone. and I spray it a little bit with a clear coat just to kind of keep that paint job set in place. I don't want it chipping or anything like that easily. The switch, I actually ran up his back. I'm gonna probably glue that in place. I unfortunately broke the switch when trying to install it, so I had to order a new one, and I'll have to solder that on. But for the bottom smoke, I just took that dark gray, and then I came back with actually that titanium white. This is an ivory. This is as white as it gets for paint. So I don't know why I ended up having two different types of smoke. I just preferred that, but I suppose you could do the same for both. As for the base, I made a dark gray. I just covered the entire thing in dark gray. And then I took that makeup brush and added a generous amount of paint onto it and did the entire thing in brown. And then very lightly, I took my white and just dry brushed over the entire thing, as you see here. Just really capturing those details that Caden 3D put into his design. So put all of that together, and this is what you're going to look at. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the glamour shots, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.